Members of the media, thank you very much for joining us today for this media briefing. We do profusely apologize for having started slightly late. As you would know, that the National Executive Committee meeting is still underway, and we were still busy with some presentations inside. So today we are joined by the SG, the Secretary General of the ANC Women's League, Comrade Nokuthula Nqaba, who will be speaking to you on the Women's League's campaign against gender-based violence and femicide, as well as what the activities are of the Women's League in this week, leading up to the G20, and of course the campaign that would have been a national campaign calling for the prioritization of gender-based violence and femicide as part of the topical issues going into the G20. I will then hand over to the SG of the Women's League to then give you the Women's League statement. Thank you very much. SG, over to you.
Greetings to all the media houses. Appreciating the opportunity afforded by the SG of the ANC for us to get the space in their schedule. The ANC Women's League has been consistent in its abhorrence of the incidents of gender-based violence and femicide, which has now reached disproportionate levels. We have organized marches, mass prayers, and petitions to lobby society for collaboration against the scourge. South Africa has steadily become a medicide, which has been defined by the Gender and Health Research Unit of the South African Medical Research Council and in its 20-year study as an extreme form of gender-based violence and femicide. The four survey of the SAMRC have used the same methodology and definition of femicide over a period of 20 years since 1999, in which they concluded that 4 women were killed by intimate partners every day, and the trend only decreased to 3 women in the 3rd survey of 2009. However, the 4th study, which coincided with the first year of COVID-19, saw a small but a significant increase in the murder of women by intimate partners. The SAMRC further made a provisional breakdown of its research with provinces such as Gauteng and Eastern Cape reporting significant increases. These statistics from credible institutions, which are collaborated by the SAPS, are unacceptable, short to say an embarrassment, to a country that boasts one of the most revered constitutional democracies in the world. Chapter 2 of our country's constitution guarantees the right to life as the most basic, the most fundamental, and the most supreme right which human beings are entitled to, as an essential prerequisite to the full enjoyment of all other human rights. It is therefore horrendous experience such heinous attacks of defenseless women, and this has now reached pandemic levels. Yet we pride ourselves with institutions which are intended to protect the rights of all citizens, particularly the vulnerable. Consequently, the ANC Women's League made a call last year in 2024, which was also made in 2019 during our march last year on the 29th of November to the Union buildings for GBVF to be declared a national disaster, and have followed due governmental processes, including a series of engagement with the highest political office of the land. We further applaud all state and non-state actors who championed our endeavor, a special civil society organization that braces our long-held position for GBVF to be declared a national state of disaster. The ANC Women's League and all sectors, inclusive of our alliance partners, once again during this period of much publicized commercial G20 shutdown, reiterate our call as submitted in both the Presidency and the National Assembly in comprehensive memorandum, which calls for the following: speed up the process on the review of the Sexual Offences Act. No bail policy or prosecutorial bail may be considered in respect of offences of GBVF and femicide. Enhanced training for law enforcement. A minimum life sentence to be imposed if an accused is convicted of GBVF and femicide. Tighter regulations on parole systems. Immediate allocation of resources for GBV prevention programs. Enhance monitoring of GBVF cases and increase accountability for delayed justice. Comprehensive review and reform of parole system, ensuring that rehabilitative measures are robust and effective. Greater public awareness and engagement in the fight against GBV and femicide. Strengthen policy commitments and legislative actions for the government protection orders need to be enforced. More people are killed whilst having protection orders in their hands. Increase collective support from government and private sector and NGOs for victims through enhanced services and community networks. A call for a unified movement that signals zero tolerance for crime and gender-based violence in our South Africa. Community safety programs include neighborhood safety initiatives to empower communities to protect illegal guns possession and collaborate with law enforcement. Tighten gun control and silencing guns, crackdown on illegal firearms. Review the National Register for Sexual Offenders to maximize effective implementation and regular update and proper coordination. The President to declare a state of disaster on GBVF. Weekly meetings from the Presidency to give feedback to the nation on practical advances to combat the scourge of criminality and GBVF. GBVF crime and criminality continue to undermine the very principles which form the foundation of democracy and egalitarianism. And we demand that the policy, all state organs, and most importantly, our government must take decisive steps to protect our communities. We call upon all women organizations, many of whom share our objectives in eradicating gender-based violence and femicide, to unite and rise with the rest of South Africa in confronting this scourge responsibly and decisively. This call comes as we prepare for the 16 days of activism against GBVF, running from the 25th November to 10th December, a period that demands not only awareness but concrete action. We also call upon research units and data agencies to provide comprehensive research and updated to statistics that accurately reflect the scale of GBVF and femicide in South Africa. Reliable data is critical for shaping informed communication and advocacy, ensuring that we present facts with integrity and avoid misrepresenting the reality, even as we strive to convey the true severity of the crisis. As the ANC Women's League, we reaffirm our commitment we will not rest until accountability is enforced and meaningful changes is achieved. We will continue to hold offices of authority to account and mobilize community nationwide. Our campaign will begin with the National Men's Walk led by the ANC President, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, in the Free State, symbolizing the critical role men must play in ending violence against women, children, and provincial walks will also follow, amplifying this message across the country. This is also a call for men, also in the media space, to partner with us under the banner, I quote, "It ends with us," close quote. We challenge men to reject all forms of abuse, including the exploitation of persons with disabilities, a crime that is not only unlawful, but morally reprehensible and diabolic. November, being Disability Awareness Month, strengthens our resolve to protect every vulnerable group in society. The ANC Women's League stands firm as the voice of the voiceless, defending women, children, and all vulnerable groups and marginalized communities. Together, we can dismantle the structures that perpetuate violence and equality in our society. I thank you.
Thank you so much, SG. We do profusely apologize for the background noise, given our location here. We've also been joined by Comrade Pinky Kekana, who's also a member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, as well as a member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC Women's League. We will now go to questions the SG has outlined, including a national walk that will be joined by the ANC President, as well as other formations as well, and the call for the issue of GBVF to be declared a national disaster. I am looking around for questions. There's one. Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Yes.
President, and also just for clarity per se, these were appeals made here at the NEC to the president or to the ANC in general. What was how were they received, or what was the response?
Okay. Let's go to Moloko and then we'll go to Samkelo.
All right, Moloko from ENCA. I must admit, I did not even get to hear what I kind of like got a sense that she's talking of a campaign that you're going to be launching. If I can just ask her to reiterate particularly this part and also the timelines as to how it's going, when it's going to commence.
Yes.
But then she spoke about a suggestion, and I also did not get it clearly, where she talks about a minimum, I don't know whether she was saying minimum or maximum sentence for GBV cases. If she can clarify that in simple terms, what as women of the ANC you are proposing in terms of the minimum sentence and all that. Okay. But also given the fact that the ANC is part of government, in terms of policy, I mean, in the Minister of Social Development is the president of the ANC Women's League. Mm-hmm. Also the minister in the presidency, the deputy minister as well, they are all from the ANC. The proposals that you are all making there, what are the difficulties in terms of shaping policy at the level where they are responsible, where you would have come to us and said, we have done this up to so far and this is the progress? Because from what I'm sensing, it's as if you are still bouncing your proposals to everybody here.
Okay. Samkelo, you're covered. Okay. Yes.
Okay. My name is Ntebo. I'm with the SAPC. My name is Ntebo, and I'm with the SAPC. Well, it was a bit rowdy. I couldn't hear what the SG was saying. But I just want to understand, are you saying the president is, I heard something like the president is going to lead something, if you could reiterate that for us.
Okay.
And secondly, As the ANC Women's League, you sit next to the president, I would say. You sit next to the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Police. Do you think you're making, or your voice is loud enough for them to hear what you are crying about, or what you're crying out for? And secondly, do you think we've got, in a country that is so lawlessness like ours, I mean, I would say South Africa has become a no-go area for women. Do you think we've got the laws that are compatible with this lawlessness society? Do you think we've got those laws? If they are there, do you think there is a political will to implement those laws so that they are in par with the lawlessness that we are faced with?
Okay. Thank you, SG. Are there any other questions? Because I don't think we'll do. That's all. Okay. So if you can please just summarize the campaigns that we've mentioned, SG, which was for us to just get a better sense of the campaigns that you'll be running this week, including the issue of the march that you would have mentioned. There was a question around the work of the Women's League vis-a-vis its ability to be an advocacy organization within the ANC. How did the NEC receive the POA of the Women's League as we enter this particular week? And of course, then there was the issue about the issue of the laws and how do we advocate for those. I think I'm just trying to summarize the questions that came through. I'll hand over to you, SG, and then you'll indicate if you want Comrade Bingi to also take a few questions as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. There are programs that are going to take place as build-up programs towards the. There's a call that we are there's a march that we are planning to have. So this march it's planned to take place on the 21st of this month, which will be directed to the Constitutional Hill. This is a day prior to the G20 summit. So there are those that are working with us, and they are marching. They are doing their protest online, whilst ours it's going to be physical, because that's what we are good at. So from there, we will then be moving to the launch of the 16 days of activism, which this year will be taking place in Free State. So where we said the president will also be leading in forming part. That on its own, that the president will be part of that work. It is also a confirmation of a government that is very responsive to our call and understanding the plight of women in the country. So it might not be to the point where one would really appreciate, because it also goes to the question that was asked about the laws of this country. The laws are there. The Constitution on its own as our Bible, as we have said in the statement, that is appreciated across the globe. And the documents that are there in terms of the frameworks. So everything is there, it is in place. All that is required and that we need from our government is to actually show their willingness, which was asked, in ensuring that they assist us to curb the situation. Because we've been saying that the GBVF, it can be reduced as a battle of the ANC Women's League alone. We kept on talking to the nation to say it knows no boundaries, it knows no color, it knows no standing of any individual in the society, it knows no profession, it affects all of us. It doesn't matter whether you belong into a category of a millionaire or a billionaire. It has its own way of finding itself in affecting your family, whether the immediate or biological. Hence we are saying it should be a call that we embark, all of us as South Africans, and we invite all of you and everyone in the country to assist us. It is not a new call. We have started as early as 2019 with the leadership that was there before us, where there was a national shutdown. It did not make any much of a difference, because if there was an impact through that march, or through that national shutdown, we wouldn't be standing here today and repeating the very same call. Hence, we are now saying it should be actually taken into another level of a national disaster. This is informed by the very same president of the state, His Excellency, when he said, after we managed to win the battle of COVID-19, he then said that was declared as a pandemic. Declaration of the situation of the GBVF at the time was that the GBVF in South Africa is a second pandemic. At some point, the president said the GBVF is a national crisis. So when there's a national crisis in South Africa, be it in a form of floods or be it in a form of a riot, the country will be on standstill and all the resources will be, channeled to a particular direction so as to curb the situation. And that's why we are calling for a state of a national disaster, because we do know that in that arrangement, there will be resources that are put aside, because there's an issue of the funding that we are not comfortable with it. When we even had a meeting with the Deputy President, Comrade Paul Mashatile, with the Minister of Women, Children and People with Disability, with the Deputy also. We were informed later on that through our call in terms of the march for the national disaster, there's an IMC, the Interim Ministerial Committee, that was established because of the work that we're doing on the ground. However, from where we are standing, going back to the issue of the will, we do not feel the work of that IMC since it was established this year. So we don't know whether they're still battling because of the money, and we're hoping that government will assist. We were still also having some hope that during the budget, the budget votes that took place last week, we were to hear some form of commitment from our own government around the funding for GBVF. Also issues of crime, because if you talk about crime and safety, it is also affecting us direct as women of this country. Indeed, in the ANC, this is something that we raise every day. You would swear that the politics that we know as leaders of the ANC, it is only that of fighting GBVF in South Africa, nothing else. Because even in the meetings of the ANC, where we are afforded an opportunity, we do raise the matter. And we understand why the president is now going to join the walk in Free State during the launch of the 16 days of activism. It is informed by our call, because I think it has been now realized that the call, it is real. There's no one who can ignore it. And the president is going to join us on those bases. However, joining us through the walk, it is actually not an answer to our demand for a state of the national disaster on the gender-based violence and femicide, because that is our firm position, that the government, for us to be taken serious, it has reached that point and it must be treated as such by all means. So we do have the support. The fact that we are given this opportunity to even come here, it is because the ANC understood the cause. And the SG then said, this is the space of the ANC. It is not the meeting of the Women's League. But we were still afforded the opportunity to say, go and talk to the nation. Here is the platform. And then talk about the plight of women and engage on issues of the call that you've been making around the declaration of GBVF, a national disaster. The political will, I've mentioned about it, and I said laws are there and the policies, they are there in the space. But the problem is the commitment from our government. I want to repeat that. We've been crying out loud about this issue. And indeed, I think we must say, we are not getting any joy from government. Government has its own machinery. Ours is to advocate for the full and the total liberation of women of this country and children by ensuring that they live safe in their homes, even at work, in the working environment, and wherever they are, they should be protected and feel comfortable and safe. It doesn't happen in South Africa. Statistics, as we have stated, have shown us that in each and every hour in a day, a woman is being, the rights of women and children are being violated. As we stand here, I wouldn't be shocked to get a call that when you were on media live, a child has been raped or being violated, a woman has been killed. Women are being killed, mercilessly, and there's really no remorse to that. And that's why we are calling for a no bail. We are saying there should be a minimum sentence. In terms of the law, they will then be able to unpack, but we are taking it even further beyond that. We are taking it even further beyond that to say the bail might not be enough, because the problem with the bail, when someone has committed this kind of a crime of violating women's right to sexually and physically and even kill a person, when they get the bail, they run away. If they don't run away, they repeat the very same crime, continuously raping. That's why in our systems, there is something called the serial rapist. One does not get that. It is because the person continuously being a perpetrator in that space, doing the same thing. Normally, they would even kill these women as they rape them. So that's the issue of us having that, because we can't call for a life sentence. We were made to believe that that's an extreme and it's against the laws of the country, the constitution, yet it doesn't allow us to have the life sentence. Hence, we are saying whatever that is possible and at the disposal of government in terms of the machinery, they must assist us. The issues of the bail, we really don't support it. We believe that they should be given no bail and there should be a life sentence when it is proven beyond doubt that indeed this person has committed this kind of a crime. Thank you very much. And I will allow Comrade Pinky also to come in.
Thank you, SG, and morning to our media houses. Just a few points that I want to share with members of the media. This is not a once-off program by the ANC Women's League. And the issues of women have always been at the center of the ANC and the ANC Women's League, but also members of the society, especially when we talk about gender-based violence and femicide. Now, you would remember that in 2018, the President convened a summit on GBVF at St. George's. And that summit brought about things that made, or amendments into the law that made government to bring in. Part of it was the issue of protection order and many other related things. And that's why today women are able to apply for protection order online without going to the police station or whatever. So it was a way of speeding up and rising to the occasion to deal with that. So the summit brought about those amendments, but also the Department of Social Development upped the game in as far as Tutuzela centers are concerned, to make sure that there are safe spaces when women are under attack, so that they can be able to be safe. The courts also, through those laws, then dedicated special courts to deal with GBVF, including protecting little ones who are raped or violated. So those are some of the things that, flowing from the call by women of South Africa, led by the ANC Women's League, culminating into government program that the Minister of Justice the Minister of Social Development were also able to put mechanisms in place to help fast-track some of these things. The reason why the courts even dedicated special courts and attention for this kind of heinous crime, it was because of the backlogs that were always there. A child will be raped at 6, and the court will run up until the child is 12 years. You can imagine whether this child will still remember what happened those years. So that's why the fast-tracking of some of these things. So I can say, yes, there's a political will because government has put mechanisms in place to help fast-track and deal with some of the challenges. But also, even when we looked at how the Omotoso case and many other cases have been going, there has been some shortcomings that we were confronted with as women, but we joined as South Africans to call for more justice to Cheryl and many others. So the call is for us to hold hands as South Africans and not politicize this matter. It's a societal issue, and all of us must join hands and rally behind each one of us. Protect women, protect the vulnerable, protect our children, and make South Africa a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I see there's already a follow-up hand. I'll take a quick second round. Please do bear in mind that I did say that we do have activities that require our attention upstairs. I see.
No,
so if we can take a quick second round. Oh, please
Deputy
come back.
Minister, yeah, can you please? We.
It sounds like the question is for you.
Oh.
You can't just speak and go.
Yeah.
Please sit down. Thank you. Thank you.
No,
Thank
yes.
you, Comrade Pinky.
No, Moloko again, and
Moloko, okay.
I really
So
appreciate.
just before you come in, anyone else wants to ask a follow-up? We just have the one follow-up. All right.
Sure, only one.
Please have a seat.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my question really is two-pronged. Preferably, I would prefer the Secretary General of the Women's League to have a bite there. But I know you are the Deputy Minister as well, Ms. Ncebo, and Ms. Kekana. My question really relates to the fact that already the so-called Purple Movement, ordinary civilians, South Africans, have already organized a similar march. They call it basically they want to bring South Africa to a halt on that very day. And you seem to be organizing a parallel march. The question is, why, since you have been saying it's not political, but unfortunately you are a political organization, you cannot remove yourself from the political connotations. Why are you not joining forces with them since GBV, all of us agree that it's a societal problem? That's one. But secondly, my question on government, from government's point of view, those of you who are in government, where is a policy proposal regarding enhancing the issues that you have been raising here to a point where you will be saying from government, beyond marching, from government's point of view, this is what we have done up to so far, or this is what we are going to do? Okay.
I'll start with the SG on the question of the Women's League versus the Purple Movement. And then I'll go to Comrade Pinky, and then I'll do a wrap-up thereafter. 2 minutes each, SG.
Thank you very much. I'll be very brief. The Purple movement, which is for Women for Change. We were together last week with them, invited by Minister of COGTA, Minister Thabisa, and the President was also represented. That meeting was also informed by many a couple of things that we have done on our own. And I said earlier on, there is a shutdown that is organized online. And we then thought that we have our own space that we can also capture to reinforce, which is doing the march because not everyone else has access to the online media platforms. But then whilst they continue with that, we will be doing the march physically as warm bodies. And I think we must make it clear that shutdown, it talks about the issues around the G20. As the Women's League, we are very clear. We support the G20 because we understand that when the G20 comes to South Africa, in the continent for that matter, for the first time, it affords us an opportunity for the investors to come and create jobs and assist us to reduce the high rate of unemployment, which has a face of a woman. It can be us that would support the disruption of the economy. It will be to contradict what we stand for and what we've been fighting and calling for from the government, to say there's high rate of unemployment, and actually these women are vulnerable and get to be abused mentally, physically, and otherwise, because they become dependent at times to their partners or to family members. And because of that dependency, they then being reduced to be victims on daily basis of sexual violence and many other forms of crime against women and children. Others, they even use their children and give them to those that we relate as blessers in our society. If someone can afford, you will hear stories from women to say, my child is actually, or you will get it from a child reporting that my mom is allowing this man to actually take over and control over me and doing anything and everything that person wants to do sexually and otherwise, because this person is actually a provider to my family. We get to have something on the table to eat at night because this man comes with the food to feed the entire family, whilst there's no one to work and support the family, and there's no form of any source of income. So the issue of standing against and disrupt the economy that has been, dwindling for quite some time. And when we get an opportunity for our economy to grow and invite investors, and then we said we disrupt, I don't think it will actually help the cause that we stand for, of saying the government must put anything and everything in place in ensuring that there's high rate of job creation, so that the youth of this country, the women that are vulnerable, they get to be taken care of and get their own independence, far from the dependency that they are subjected to. That's the reason. So we are going to have our march. By the way, we are standing here because we want to say it clearly, that it will be better for our government in the form of GNU, led by the ANC, to declare the GBVF a state of disaster prior to the 21st. Because if they don't do that, the purpose will dance. And our government knows us very well. That is led by the ANC, that there is no bigger women's formation in South Africa and in the continent, physically in terms of the warm bodies on the ground, across the streets of South Africa, that can make this country be on standstill. So we are very clear, and we are pleading to our president, Umatamela, Ukuti, the sooner this decision is made, the better. Whether they want to classify and explain to us that what we are calling for, it belongs to which category, that is fine with us. But something must be done, and we advise the state to rather be proactive than to provoke us and wait for the last minute, because we will be left with no choice but to join hands with those that believes that strongly, that for them to get the attention that they've been crying out loud for, they need to disrupt the economy of the country. That has a direct bearing negatively to our own well-being as women of this country, having that our face in the main. So with that, we don't have problems with the People's Movement. We were in meetings with them. We all agree that we have a common cause on the issues of GBVF, but probably the strategy might not be the same. And we have never discouraged no one not to participate online, but we are saying we are taking it further, that struggle on the ground, physically, through the march, and we will also have the picketing, which does not even require a paper from government to be given that opportunity. So that's the take for now. Thank you very much.
just a quick one on policy matters. The women have sat in the summit and they have identified in 2018 the gaps in terms of the laws that must strengthen the issues and the sentencing of gender-based violence. Government responded by bringing amendments into the laws so that that can also tighten the issues that relate to gender-based violence and femicide. So what government does is to do amendments in the legislation that can empower our people so that the courts are able to deal with these matters accordingly. So when those amendments are proposed, they go through Parliament and then the courts are then empowered. So there's a relationship between what Parliament does after amending and then handing over to the judges and magistrates and prosecutors so that they can deal with that. So we think so far we are doing very well in terms of legislation is concerned. The biggest challenge that is confronting all of us is that unfortunately this GBVF happens within the four walls in a particular household. So neighborhoodness, knowing each other and checking on each other as neighbors and whispering to the law enforcement, if we are picking up issues of that before they even go out of hand, is something that all of us have to deal with. Know your neighbor. That's why the Women's League has this program of Molo Makelwan. Every day you must be able to talk to your neighbor and check how your neighbor is and so on. That in itself help us to join hands and help us to know anyone's problems that confronted them the previous day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, comrades. Just to reiterate, and we don't want to speak on behalf of government because it's not a government platform, but just to state that the JCPS cluster in government, which is led by the Minister of Justice, has actually, you would remember that a few months ago, the issue of GBV was on the agenda with the case in the Eastern Cape, the rape case in the Eastern Cape that was reported, which really caused the national movement. And you remember there was actually a march to the union buildings. That matter was then referred to the JCPS cluster, which is the Justice, Crime and Security Prevention cluster. The cluster has actually since then taken up an approach to actually have a very targeted program of action on GBV. You'd remember that the cluster actually went to Limpopo in August, where we actually went as the whole of government, because we then, in our capacity on the other side, realized that it's important to, when you do respond on the issue of GBVF, it's not just a police issue, it's not just a justice issue, it's not just a social development issue, but it's really a whole of government approach. And following that particular outreach, it was followed up by one in Mthatha as well. And really the idea with that is to ensure that whatever you then do legislate at a level of government and at parliament, and you're saying that we have a policy on this, we have a policy on that, we have a policy on that, but you actually do go on the ground and see if these things are actually implemented. And I'll make one example. So one example is that all police stations must have, for victims of GBV, must actually have counseling centers where someone who's coming to report a case is able to be debriefed, and that counseling center, that counseling room rather, must actually have, particular things in place so that the person is able to, because sometimes you are so traumatized that you can't even give the statement correctly. And so we're actually doing inspections. So the cluster is actually going around to do inspections to check that when we speak about Tutuzela centers, are they functional? When I come as a victim of GBV to a police station, to a Tutuzela center, etc., are those things functional? Are they equipped with all of the things that they are equipped with? So this is the work that is ongoing. In fact, we'll actually ask the cluster, and I think it's actually a good point that Muluko raised this point, that perhaps we should ask the cluster to do a government briefing on the issue, because there is a lot of work that is happening on the ground on this particular matter. And before closing, I just think that it's important to also reiterate the point that was made by the SG, that, for an example, if you notice, the Youth League has actually joined forces and actually said that as the Youth League, we actually support the Women for Change a campaign, and they've actually thrown their full weight around it. The Women's League is working with that movement as well. So we don't want it to be misconstrued that when the Women's League is having a campaign on this particular matter, a campaign that the Women's League has always had, we do know that we are a couple of days towards the 16 Days of Activism campaign. Every year, the Women's League has a campaign on 16 Days of Activism. It has a mass rolling campaign. It rolls it out every year. So we don't want it to be misconstrued that it's about that. This is the campaign of the Women's League on a particular issue that, as an organization that advocates for the rights of women and for the safety of women, has always run. And that's why we are then also having this media briefing, but also then informing the nation around the Women's League campaign, and of course requesting and urging everyone to rally behind this important issue that affects all of us all over the country. With that said, thank you very much for having joined us here this afternoon, and thank you very much to the SG of the Women's League. Our other comrade had to excuse us because we did say that there is an organizational matter that we are dealing with as an NEC at the moment that requires our attention. That brings to a close our media briefing. Thank you so much.